welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And I'm Jaime and Fuego, and we're stoked for
a spoiler review! We're doing John Dies at the End. We're spoiling the hell out of it. And Jaime, what is the first spoiler for John Dies at the End for you?
Well, first off, I'm so stoked that we're doing a Coscarelli film, Mr. Don Coscarelli, and you know, he really brought a seriousness and a goofiness, which I really liked. And halfway through, you start to see some of the seriousness come into play. Because there's a monologue from this cop who is basically tracking the drug that all these kids are using, this soy sauce stuff. And as he has the kids down at, well, first he's interrogating them, and then in turn, he chases them down to the house of the drug dealer, this Jamaican guy, this Mr. Nice Guy, who actually has this stuff that he's pushing on the kids that is making them trip out, but also getting them in touch with a different dimension. This cop thinks it's like hell, basically, and he starts talking about the dark underbelly of the universe and how sometimes creatures or presences or entities or whatever can creep up and can either manifest themselves, possess other people, whatever it may be. And he's like, all your kids are possessed and crazy, and I need to kill all of you, is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, he's a little out there. Yeah. Now, the spoiler thing I wanted to talk about is the big reveal by the end of the movie is that basically this whole movie, David Wong is trying to figure out what's going on, and essentially he's fighting things from another dimension.
Yeah, from many other dimensions, so they imply.
Yeah, and so they eventually get, he and John, who is not quite dead, but actually just has been sort of in vegetable mode for a little while.
And yet he's kind of transmitting his consciousness or speaking into their brains.
It's out there, out there. But if you accept it and you understand it, watch the movie, you'll get it. But basically they get pulled into this other reality where these people, or this congregation of people showing tits and lots of naked tits.
Almost like a cult, right?
Yeah.
Hooray for movies!
Yeah, exactly. And they're drawn into this group that worship this massive creature, essentially. Basically, the whole movie, part of why Jaime and I both like it as creature fans, it turned out to be a massive creature movie.
Yeah.
Where this thing, that's this sort of almost Lovecraftian thing, it's a mixture of the Cthulhu and the creature from Bad Eggs, the Buffy episode, where it's sort of, you know, in the school and in the ground, and it's this weird, you know, tentacled creature that is trying to reach out into other realities and absorb knowledge.
Yep. Any like force that he feels is just emanating that type of knowledge and that type of power, he's like, we need to draw it into our dimension
and consume it.
Yep, exactly right. So I can chomp down, tastes like bacon.
So it's interesting. The big sort of confrontation of the end is David and John have to sort of take out this big creature, and
they don't end up taking it out
themselves. It's actually a dog
named Bark Lee.
Yes, Barkley. Yeah. And he ends up taking the bomb and jumping down and sacrificing himself to save the world and the universe from this weird dimension-hopping Cthulhu creature.
Yep, who's kind of like a beefed-up version of the meat monster from earlier in the film.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just all the mushing together of different pieces of, I don't know, like bodies, organic matter, whatever. Because it's this big blob of disgustingness, and then pretty intense, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And we each had one other thing we wanted to spoil, both having to do with the character played by Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
Who, if you guys know anything about movies, you know that Paul Giamatti is a fantastic character actor.
Yep.
He's done tons of stuff. We don't even have to mention it. You probably already know who he is. But he lends his talent to this movie as a reporter listening to David Wong's story in a restaurant.
Skeptical the whole time.
Absolutely. But the part that I want to talk about is when David decides, okay, he's done these mentalist tricks where he guessed the year and the coins that are in his pocket.
Told him about a dream
that he's had,
before.
exactly. But ultimately, Paul Giamatti doesn't really believe him, so David says, okay, follow me outside. They go outside, and he opens up the back of his van, and there's what looks like an empty cage, but he says, okay, talk to me, look straight at me, but then take the corner of your eyes and look in the cage, and Paul Giamatti does, and he sees this grotesque upside-down spider kind of creature, and he freaks out. And this is part of what I loved about Paul Giamatti. He had such a small role in this movie, but he was extraordinarily effective.
Left his impact.
Freaks the hell out, falls to the ground, and like scurries backwards, you know, away from the creature. And he's like, "What the hell is that?" You know, and it lends itself to the movie, and you're like, "Damn, this is real stuff. You got to really pay attention."
Yeah.
But then
the biggest reveal
by the end, when we've seen the rest of the movie play out, and we see John and David or the dog really, take out the big creature.
No.
David is finishing his story for Paul Giamatti, and what happens, Jaime?
Well, you find out that Mr. Giamatti is actually not even really there.
He's a ghost.
Yeah, he's a manifestation that's almost being perpetuated by David Wong himself. He's like, you know how when you talk on the phone and you kind of envision the way somebody's going to look? That's why you're looking the way you are, because in fact, Giamatti's character is a dead black journalist who's been rotting in his
Trunk
for days.
For who knows how long, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because early on they talk about how sometimes spirits, you know, when you see a spirit, they look like how you sort of imagine them. Yeah, like if you hear their voice, you give them an image, and that's how they can sometimes look, but it's not always the case. Jaime might see a ghost, and it might look completely different to Jaime than it looks to me. So it's an interesting sort of rule that they set up in the movie, and it sort of helped out with a trick reveal at the end, sort of a nice Shyamalan sort of twist ending.
It was a good little twist, but it didn't really, I mean, you felt bad initially, but there's such a light tone to a lot of portions of the film. You're just like, wow. I guess that's just the nature of the beast, you know?
Yeah, it just came out. And so it's cool, the movie ends, and both David and John are around to continue their would-be ghost-busting kind of thing.
Get invited into another dimension, and they're like, you know what? On second thought, we're just going to go back.
Yeah.
And they give this little excuse, like, we just got some stuff we have to get in our dimension, but we'll be back. And no, they have no intent of that. They're like, enough superhero ghost-busting, frightener in for a while, at least for them.
Exactly.
So.
But all in all, it was a fantastic movie.
Yeah. Makes me want to seek out the book it was based on. Also written by a guy named David Wong, who is the executive director at like crack.com. So he does humor, all kinds of writing. You know,
it's got to be worth checking out, you guys.
He's a busy guy, and there's a novel sequel too if you guys get the chance to scope that out too.
So check it out. It's not unlike Odd Thomas, which Marcia and I reviewed last season.
Very similar.
It's really cool, really interesting. So check it out, you guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out our horror show stuff at thehorrorshowchannel.com.
Please check out our social media. We have Instagram, cool photos, Twitter, and Facebook for you to connect with us on.
And for the comments in this episode, you guys, let us know what your favorite horror movie that deals with another dimension is.
Yes.
Because there's a lot that actually travel that way, believe it or not, and
we have such sights to show you.
That's one right there. So check it out, and I would say other than that, thanks for watching, and remember, stay scared. No, he doesn't die at the end. It's complete bullshit. Don't listen to anything he said.
You keep thinking he's dying, and they're like, he's dead, and then he's not dead. He's like, his consciousness is floating around, and it's
ridiculous. Fuck it.
It's a cool fucking movie, though, I gotta say. Cecil's like, fuck it. We're sick about talking about it.
Cecil.